I've traveled to the most unforgiving places on Earth. I've walked through frozen tundras where my eyelashes turn to ice. I've crossed jungles where every shadow hides something that wants to kill you. I've seen humanity pushed to its absolute limits in places most people don't even know exist. But nothing prepared me for this. Nothing. The thermometer reads 145 degrees Fahrenheit. Let me say that again, because I need you to understand what that means. 145 degrees. That's not hot. That's not extreme heat. That's the temperature where human beings are not supposed to exist. The air doesn't just feel hot. It feels solid. It feels like a physical wall pressing against your chest every time you try to breathe. Every breath is like inhaling fire, like swallowing burning coals. My lips cracked within the first hour. Deep, painful cracks that bled every time I tried to speak. My skin blisters if I stand still for too long. I can feel the sun cooking me from the outside in, like meat on a grill. This is the Danakil Depression, the Afar Triangle, one of the lowest points on the entire African continent, sitting over 300 feet below sea level. Locals call it the gateway to hell, and standing here, watching the horizon ripple and melt under the white sun, I finally understand why. This is not a metaphor. This is not exaggeration. This place is genuinely, scientifically, one of the hottest inhabited regions on the planet Earth. There is no shade. There is no wind. There is no relief. There is only heat. Relentless, crushing, inescapable heat that wraps around you like a suffocating blanket and never lets go. The ground beneath my boots is so hot it melts the rubber soles. I can smell them burning. The rocks glow like embers fresh from a fire. Salt flats stretch in every direction, blindingly white, reflecting the sun back up at you so you're being cooked from above and below simultaneously. Volcanic vents release sulfurous gases that burn your nostrils and make your eyes water. The landscape looks like another planet, like Mars, like somewhere humans were never meant to set foot. And yet people live here. I came here following whispers of a nomadic tribe, a people who have survived in this wasteland for generations, for centuries, a people who have adapted to conditions that would kill most of us within days, a people who are now, despite all their resilience, despite all their ancient knowledge, facing extinction. And what I found when I reached them changed me forever. The village appears like a mirage through the shimmering heat. At first, I think I'm hallucinating. The heat does that to you. It plays tricks on your mind, makes you see things that aren't there, makes you doubt your own sanity. But as I walk closer, the shapes become clearer. 30 makeshift shelters constructed from animal hides and salvaged materials. Thin columns of smoke rising from dying cooking fires. And people, maybe 200 souls in total. Every single one of them is dying. The drought has lasted 11 months. 11 months without a single drop of rain in a place where water was already more precious than gold. The river that once gave this tribe life, that sustained their ancestors for countless generations, is now a cracked scar of dried mud and bleached bones. I walk along what used to be the riverbed, and I see the skeletons of fish that died gasping for water that evaporated around them. I see the carcasses of animals that came here hoping to drink and found only death. Their goats died first. I see the dried husks of their bodies scattered around the camp, too numerous to bury, left where they fell. Then the camels followed. Camels, animals literally designed by evolution to survive extreme drought. Even they couldn't handle this. Now, there is nothing left. No livestock, no stored grain, no emergency reserves. Nothing. I watch a mother sitting in the shade of a makeshift tent trying to breastfeed her infant. The baby latches on desperately, instinctively. But the mother has no milk. Her body has nothing left to give. She is dehydrated, malnourished, running on reserves that depleted weeks ago. The baby's cries are weak, too weak. That thin, reedy sound that tells you a child is fading. I've heard that sound before in other desperate places, and it never gets easier. It haunts you. It follows you home. Nearby, an elder sits motionless against a rock, his eyes hollow and distant, staring at nothing. His ribs are visible through paper-thin skin that hangs loose on his frame. His cheekbones protrude sharply. His arms are like sticks. One of the younger men tells me this elder hasn't eaten in 6 days. 6 days. He's given his portions to the children every single time, choosing slow starvation so that the young might have a slightly better chance. Children wander between the shelters with distended bellies, not fat, swollen from malnutrition, from their bodies consuming themselves from the inside. They don't play, they don't laugh, they barely move. They're conserving every calorie, every drop of energy, because their bodies know instinctively that there's nothing coming to replenish what they spend. The tribe's leader approaches me slowly. His name is Amir. He's perhaps 50 years old, though he looks 70. His face is carved from decades of survival in this merciless landscape, weathered and cracked like the desert floor itself. Deep lines around his eyes, a beard streaked with gray, hands calloused and scarred from a lifetime of hard labor. This is a man who has faced every challenge this brutal environment could throw at him, and emerged victorious every single time. But today, for the first time in his life, I see something in his eyes I recognize, something that doesn't belong on a face this strong. Fear. The children will not survive another week, he tells me. His voice barely a whisper. The words come out cracked and dry, like he's rationing even the moisture required for speech. The elders have maybe 2 weeks. The strong ones, the hunters, perhaps a month if they stop moving. We need meat, we need fat, we need protein, we need life itself, or we become ghosts. I ask him if there's any game in the area, any animals they could hunt, anything at all. He shakes his head slowly. Everything is dead or gone, he says. The antelope migrated months ago, following water we don't have. The birds left with them. Even the insects have disappeared. This land has become truly barren. And then he pauses. His expression shifts. Something complicated moves behind his eyes. He points toward the horizon, toward a distant depression in the landscape, toward the last remaining waterhole in 100 miles. There is something there, he says. His voice drops even lower, like he's afraid of being overheard. Something massive, something that has claimed that water as its own. It killed 2 of my best men who tried to approach, tore them apart like they were made of paper. We've been avoiding it, hoping it would leave, hoping the water would last, hoping for any other option. He meets my eyes directly, but there are no other options left. That creature is our only hope. Its flesh could feed us for months, its fat could sustain us through the worst. But killing it might be impossible, and trying might cost us more lives we cannot afford to lose. I ask him what kind of animal it is. He looks at me with the weight of a man about to speak of a demon. His voice becomes almost reverent, almost afraid. Kiboko wa kifo, the hippo of death. We leave before dawn, when the temperature is merely 110 degrees instead of its daytime peak. A small mercy. 12 hunters make up the party, the strongest men the tribe has left. Even they move slowly, conserving energy, their bodies running on reserves that are nearly empty. Amir leads the way, navigating by stars and landmarks that have guided his people for generations. No one speaks. There's nothing to say. Every man here knows this might be a one-way journey. Every man here has made peace with that possibility. They're not doing this for glory or adventure. They're doing this because 200 people are counting on them, because children are starving, because there is literally no alternative. We approach the waterhole just as the sun begins its assault on the horizon. The light turns the desert orange and red, beautiful in a terrible way, like watching a fire consume everything in its path. And then I see it. My blood turns to ice despite the heat. Rising from the muddy water like a living mountain is the largest hippopotamus I have ever seen. The largest anyone has ever seen. The hunters stop dead in their tracks, and I hear several of them whisper prayers under their breath. One young man, barely out of his teenage years, takes an involuntary step backward before catching himself. The hunters estimate its weight at 13,000 pounds. Let that number sink in. 13,000 pounds. Nearly 6.5 tons of raw, primal fury. That's heavier than most pickup trucks. That's heavier than many military vehicles. That's a weight that seems impossible for any living creature to carry. This is not an animal. This is a monster. Its body is a fortress of gray flesh, scarred and marked from a lifetime of battles. Long white lines crisscross its hide, where rival males tried and failed to bring it down. Patches of rough, calloused skin show where wounds healed over years. This creature has been fighting and winning since before most of these hunters were born. Its hide is so thick that spears would bounce off like twigs against stone. I've seen elephant hide before, and this is thicker. More armor than skin. Its head alone is the size of a small car, massive and blocky, built like a battering ram. Small ears twitch constantly, alert to every sound. Small eyes, red-rimmed and ancient, scan the surroundings with surprising intelligence. This is not a mindless beast. This is a creature that has survived by being smarter and more vicious than everything around it. And when it opens its mouth, I see tusks like curved swords. Each one over a foot long, yellowed and chipped from crushing bones. Hippo tusks are made of ivory, harder than elephant tusks, and this creature has been using them as weapons for decades. I see fragments of old prey wedged between its teeth. I see jaws that could bite a crocodile in half without effort. Hippos kill more humans in Africa than any other large animal. More than lions, more than crocodiles, more than elephants, leopards, and buffalo combined. They are territorial beyond reason. They are unpredictable, switching from passive to murderous in the span of a heartbeat. And they are faster than they have any right to be. That massive body can charge at 20 miles per hour on land. In water, they're even faster. Their jaws exert 2,000 pounds of bite force per square inch. Enough to crush a human skull like an eggshell. Enough to snap bones like dry twigs. And this one, this ancient bull, this king of his domain. He has claimed this waterhole as his kingdom, and he has defended it with extreme prejudice. He has killed crocodiles that wandered too close. I see the rotting remains of one on the far bank, torn nearly in two. He has killed lions that came to drink during the night. Their bones are scattered like warnings around the perimeter. He killed two of Amir's strongest hunters without hesitation. One bite, one swing of that massive head, and they were gone, erased from existence like they never mattered at all. The tribe has a name for him, Mfalme Wakifo, the king of death. They speak it in hushed tones like saying it too loud might summon his attention. To hunt him is suicide. But 200 starving people cannot eat caution. 200 starving people cannot survive on fear. Sometimes the only path forward leads directly through the impossible. The plan is desperate, primitive, almost certainly doomed. It relies on courage, speed, and luck in equal measure. And luck has not been kind to this tribe for a very long time. 12 hunters, handmade spears with iron tips that took weeks to forge. Ropes woven from dried grass, thick as my wrist but still fragile compared to the strength they're meant to contain. Wooden shields covered in dried hide that might stop a glancing blow but would shatter under direct impact. And courage. Impossible, insane, irrational courage. The kind of courage that only emerges when you have absolutely nothing left to lose. The strategy is ancient, passed down through generations who faced similar monsters in similar desperate circumstances. Lure the beast from the water, where it is invincible, where it can move with terrifying speed and disappear beneath the surface at will. Force it onto dry land, where its massive weight becomes a disadvantage, where the heat that kills humans will also drain its energy. Force it to overheat, exhaust it, lead it slowly, and pray that it falls before it kills everyone who dared to challenge it. I position myself on a rocky outcrop at a safe distance, camera in hand, heart pounding against my ribs so hard I can hear it in my ears. Part of me wants to help. Part of me knows I would only get in the way, another body for these men to worry about. Another liability in a situation that's already impossible. The hunters spread out in a wide arc around the waterhole. They move in absolute silence, communicating through hand signals developed over generations. Every man knows his role. Every man knows the stakes. The youngest hunter, barely 17 years old, with thin arms and determination burning in his eyes, volunteers as bait. It's tradition. The young prove their worth by facing death first. He's terrified. I can see his hands shaking from here, but he steps forward anyway, because his people need him, because fear is a luxury his tribe can't afford. He walks toward the waterhole, alone, unarmed. Nothing but his speed and his wits between him and 6 tons of fury. The hippo notices him immediately. I see those small red eyes lock onto the approaching figure with laser focus. Its ears twitch forward. Its nostrils flare, catching the scent of human on the scorching breeze. A low rumble echoes across the cracked earth, so deep I feel it in my chest before I hear it with my ears. A warning, a promise, a declaration that this territory belongs to the king, and trespassers will be destroyed. The boy reaches the edge of the water. The hippo watches him, unblinking, assessing. Seconds stretch into eternities. The tension is so thick I forget to breathe. The boy bends down slowly, picks up a sun-bleached stone, and throws it directly at the monster's head. The stone bounces harmlessly off that armored skull, but the insult lands perfectly, and hell breaks loose. The hippo explodes from the water with a speed that defies physics. 13,000 pounds of pure rage launches forward like a freight train leaving its tracks. The ground shakes beneath its thundering footsteps. Water sprays in every direction. That massive mouth opens wide, revealing tusks and teeth and a throat that leads straight to oblivion. The boy runs. Faster than I've ever seen a human being run. His feet barely touch the ground. His arms pump desperately. Every muscle in his body strains for every fraction of speed. It's not enough. The beast is gaining. Those stubby legs churn with impossible power. The gap closes with every heartbeat. 20 feet, 15, 10. I can see the hippo's breath now, see the spray of saliva from its open mouth, see death approaching at 20 miles per hour. The hunters spring the trap. From both sides, men emerge from hiding with spears raised and voices raised higher. They scream, they howl. They make themselves as loud and threatening as possible, trying to redirect the monster's fury away from the boy. It works. The hippo skids to a halt, confused by the sudden chaos, its tiny brain trying to process multiple threats at once. Its head swings left, then right. It bellows. A sound so loud and deep that it echoes off the distant hills. A sound that belongs in nightmares, not in waking reality. And then it chooses a new target. The beast charges the nearest hunter, a man in his 30s with a wife and 3 children waiting back at camp. He raises his shield and braces himself, but it's like trying to stop a truck with a dinner plate. The hippo's head connects with devastating force. The man flies 15 feet through the air, spinning end over end, and lands in a crumpled heap on the baked earth. He doesn't move. Chaos erupts across the battlefield. Hunters attack from every angle, jabbing with spears, trying to find any gap in that impenetrable hide. Steel tips scrape against skin that might as well be concrete. One spear penetrates an inch before getting stuck. Another snaps in half. It's like trying to kill a tank with kitchen knives, like trying to bring down a fortress with bare hands. The hippo bellows again and spins with impossible speed, its massive tail sweeping 2 more hunters off their feet. One scrambles away just in time. The other takes a glancing blow from those tree trunk legs and goes down hard, clutching his ribs, gasping for air that won't come. More men fall. One takes a tusk through his shoulder and screams as blood sprays across the sand. Another gets trampled when he's too slow to dodge. The full weight of the beast pressing him into the earth. The survivors regroup, circle, try to find an opening, but the monster seems to have no weaknesses. I watch in horror as the battle turns against us. 3 men down, 4. 5 now struggling to their feet but clearly injured. The hippo barely seems winded. Its hide shows dozens of shallow wounds, trickling blood that seems insignificant against its massive bulk. We're gnats attacking an elephant. We're ants trying to bring down a god. But Amir doesn't retreat. The tribe leader has been watching, waiting, conserving his strength for exactly the right moment. And now, as the beast turns its back to pursue another fleeing hunter, that moment arrives. Amir runs directly at the monster, not away, not around, directly at it. His ancestors' war cry tears from his throat, a sound of defiance that has echoed across these lands for 1,000 years. The hippo hears him and spins, but for once it's a fraction too slow. Amir drives his spear forward with every ounce of strength in his exhausted body. The iron tip finds the only vulnerable spot on the entire beast. The soft flesh behind the front leg, and angles upward toward where the heart should be. The spear sinks deep, past the hide, past the fat, into something vital. The hippo screams. It's a sound I will never forget as long as I live. A sound of rage and pain and something almost human. Betrayal, mortality. The sudden understanding that it can be hurt. That it can die. That this battle might not end the way it always has before. The beast stumbles. Not much. Just a single step. But for an animal that has never shown weakness, it might as well be a collapse. Blood pours from the wound, dark and thick, almost black in the scorching heat. It soaks into the sand and disappears. More blood than I've ever seen from a living creature. The hippo tries to charge again, but its legs buckle momentarily before catching. The hunters see the weakness and swarm. More spears find the wound, widening it, deepening it. Ropes fly through the air, wrapping around those massive legs, around that thick neck. Men dig their heels into the sand and pull with everything they have. The battle rages for 45 more minutes. 45 minutes of blood and screaming and desperate struggle. 45 minutes of man versus nature at its most brutal. The hippo breaks free of the ropes 3 times. It kills one more hunter, an older man who stumbled at the wrong moment. It injures 4 others so severely they'll carry the scars forever. But slowly, inexorably, the beast weakens. Blood loss takes its toll. Exhaustion sets in. The heat that kills humans also drains the monster's reserves. Its charges become slower. Its bellows become quieter. Its movements become sluggish and uncertain. And finally, after what feels like both an eternity and an instant, the king of death falls. The impact shakes the ground. Dust rises in a cloud around the massive body. One last breath escapes those terrible jaws, stirring the sand, then silence. For a long moment, nobody moves. The surviving hunters stand frozen, staring at the fallen giant, unable to process what they've accomplished, unable to believe they're still alive. Then slowly, a sound I didn't expect. Weeping. The hunters don't celebrate. There is no victory dance, no triumphant shouting. Instead, they kneel beside the fallen giant, heads bowed, whispering prayers of gratitude and apology in their native tongue. Not gratitude for victory, but gratitude for sacrifice. In their culture, taking a life this magnificent is not triumph. It is sacred debt. They thank the animal's spirit for its strength. They apologize for the necessity of its death. They promise that nothing will be wasted. They tend to their wounded first. The man who was trampled has broken ribs but will survive. The one with the shoulder wound needs stitches that will have to wait until they return to camp. The older man who fell lies still, and his brother closes his eyes and begins a death prayer. 1 life lost to feed 200. The math is brutal but simple. But there is no time for extended ceremony. Not in this heat. Not with the sun climbing higher and the temperature rising by the minute. The meat will spoil within hours if they don't act immediately. What follows is a masterclass in survival. Every single part of the hippo is used. Every single part. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is considered garbage. In this place, in this situation, waste is not just inefficient. Waste is sin. The fat comes first. Over 1,000 pounds of it. Thick white layers beneath that armored hide. It's rendered into cooking oil using heated rocks and salvaged containers. This oil will last for months. It will add calories to every meal. It will keep bodies functioning when everything else runs out. The meat is sliced thin and methodical. The hunters work quickly but carefully, their knives flying through flesh with practiced precision. Thin strips are laid across rocks to dry in the brutal sun. Within hours, they'll become jerky, preserved protein that can last through the worst of the drought, enough to feed the entire tribe for weeks if rationed properly. The hide is stripped in large sections, already being measured for its uses. Leather for sandals that will protect feet from the burning ground. Material for patching shelters against the occasional sandstorm. Containers for carrying the oil and preserved meat back to camp. The bones are collected reverently. The large ones will be boiled for broth, extracting every last bit of nutrition from the marrow. After that, they'll be carved into tools, weapons, utensils, needles for sewing. Nothing is discarded. Even the blood is collected in animal skin containers. Mixed with milk and salt, it becomes a traditional protein source. A drink that sustains warriors and hunters across Africa. Every drop represents life that would otherwise seep into the uncaring sand. 13,000 pounds of flesh becomes life for 200 souls. The journey back to camp takes longer than the journey out. The hunters are exhausted, injured, carrying loads that would break strong men under normal circumstances. But they don't complain. They don't rest longer than absolutely necessary, because they know what's waiting for them. Hope. The camp sees us coming from a mile away. By the time we arrive, the entire village has gathered. Old women who haven't smiled in months. Children who have forgotten how to play. Mothers clutching babies who have stopped crying because they're too weak to continue. They see the meat, they see the fat. They see life itself being carried toward them on the shoulders of their heroes. And something changes. Something that was dying flickers back to life. The first meal is small. It has to be. Bodies that haven't eaten properly in weeks can't handle sudden abundance. But even a few strips of meat, a few sips of fatty broth, begin to work miracles. I watch as children eat for the first time in days. Their eyes widen with each bite. Their sunken cheeks seem to fill slightly, probably my imagination, probably just hope projecting itself onto reality. But the change in their energy is real. They move more, they talk more. One little girl, maybe 5 years old, laughs at something her brother says. The sound of that laugh nearly breaks me. A grandmother clutches a piece of dried meat to her chest like it's made of gold. Tears stream down her weathered face. She whispers thanks to gods I don't know, in languages I don't understand, for deliverance she never expected to receive. The elder who hadn't eaten in 6 days accepts a small portion with trembling hands. He chews slowly, deliberately, savoring every moment. When he finishes, he closes his eyes and sits very still for a long time. I think he might be praying. I think he might be crying. I think he might simply be allowing himself to believe he's going to survive. And Amir, the man who drove his spear into a monster's heart, the man who risked everything and watched a friend die and somehow kept fighting until the impossible became possible. He sits apart from the others, staring at the horizon where the sun is beginning to set. The first cool breeze in months whispers across the camp, carrying the smell of cooking meat and the sound of voices that have remembered how to hope. I approach him slowly. I ask him what he's thinking. He doesn't look at me for a long time. When he finally speaks, his voice is quiet, almost reverent. My grandfather killed a hippo when he was young. Different circumstances, different waterhole, but the same desperation. He said the spirit of the beast becomes part of you when you take its life, that it gives you its strength, its will to survive, its refusal to surrender. He carried that spirit until the day he died at 93 years old. Amir finally turns, and in his eyes I see something new, something that wasn't there this morning, an unbreakable certainty. We will live, he says, because he died. Because we honored his sacrifice by using every part of him. Because we faced the impossible and refused to look away. This is the way it has always been. This is the way it will always be. The strong provide for the weak. The brave face what the fearful cannot. And life continues one impossible day at a time. He looks back at his people, at children eating, at elders smiling, at a tribe that was dying this morning and is living tonight. This is not just survival, he says. This is who we are. I came to this desert expecting to document death. Instead, I witnessed the most powerful testament to human survival I have ever seen. I watched 12 men with primitive weapons take down a monster that should have been invincible. I watched a dying community refuse to accept its fate. I watched hope resurrect itself from ashes. These people don't have technology. They don't have hospitals or grocery stores or air conditioning or any of the 1,000 things we consider necessary for life. They have each other. They have knowledge passed down through millennia, from parent to child, from elder to youth. They have traditions that seem primitive until you realize they've kept people alive in conditions that would kill the rest of us in days. And they have a will to live. An absolute, unshakable determination that makes our comfortable existence feel almost embarrassing. We complain about slow internet, about traffic, about coffee that's not hot enough. These people just fought a 6-ton monster in 145-degree heat because the alternative was watching their children starve. Perspective is a powerful thing. In a world that celebrates the easy path, there are still those who walk through fire, literally, and refuse to break. There are still those who face death every single day and choose to fight back. There are still those who remind us what humanity is capable of when survival is not guaranteed. The Danakil Depression remains one of the hottest, most hostile places on Earth. Scientists come here to study conditions that approximate what we might find on other planets. Most of them stay for hours before retreating to air-conditioned vehicles and cold water. And somewhere in that hell, a tribe of nomads continues to survive. Not just exist, survive, thrive even in their own way, raising children and honoring elders and passing down traditions that have outlasted empires. Because of hunts like this one, because of battles like this one, because of impossible victories won by ordinary people who simply refuse to give up. This is not entertainment. This is not adventure tourism. This is the human spirit at its most raw and beautiful and terrible, and I will never be the same.